In the beginning, God was love, and throughout eternity, God has been the true source of love. And he wanted to make something beautiful, so he made earth with all of its beautiful trees, grasses, mountains, flowers, waters, and the sun to shine on it to make it grow and show all of its beauty, and God was happy. Then he made all the animals, the birds, the fish, and all the creeping things upon the earth. And then God decided to make the most beautiful creature of all. He decided to make man in his own image. After he had made man, he loved him. And he then made woman to love, be companion, and helpmate for man. Then through man's love for woman, they being tempted by Satan disobeyed God and sinned. And that's when man's troubles began. As man multiplied, great nations arose, some worshiping God, some worshiping pagan idols. But God was always on the side of the nation that served and worshiped him. And through great obstacles, and no matter how greatly they were outnumbered, those who feared and worshiped the living God always won. Great societies were born, and the people grew evil. In about the year 2349 BC, God had one servant who really loved and served him. His name was Noah. But the morals of the people kept decaying, the people eating, drinking, and being merry, ignoring God. So God decided to destroy the earth with a great flood, saving only Noah and his family. And once more the earth replenished. And during the reign of Pharaoh, the great Egyptian king, God was worshipped by his chosen people, the Israelites. And through Moses, God forced Pharaoh to free his people. And he promised them a new land flowing with milk and honey. And for 40 years, God led his people through the wilderness, their clothes never wearing, and he fed them daily with manna falling from heaven. But they lost their faith, complained, and disobeyed. And only 2 of the original ones finally reached the promised land. And the land truly was the beautiful promised land, flowing with milk and honey, most richly blessed from God. But once again, the people began to forget from whence all of their blessings came. And slowly they turned from God, turning to their own lust, pleasures, understandings, and sin. And the great promised land, flowing with milk and honey, fell to their enemy. But God still loved man, and in the city of Bethlehem, through the Virgin Mary, God sent his only Son, Jesus, as he had promised in days of old, to redeem man by allowing Jesus as the unblemished lamb to be slain and crucified for man's sins. So man was allowed to rejoin God through the spilled blood of Christ. About the year 650 BC, the people decided to build Rome, the greatest nation and society on the face of the earth. And as the nation grew strong, it began to forget God. So they built great buildings, worshiping Caesar, entertaining themselves for public murders, orgies, laughing and dancing in the streets. So God turned his back on the people, and the great Roman Empire fell to the ground. 1,600 years passed from the time Christ died for man, and as before, the nations grew evil. And out of the country of England came a small band of people who feared God, desiring to worship him as they pleased. They crossed the ocean and found the new promised land, where temperatures were just right, the land filled with fruits, milk, and honey. And they said, we'll build a new nation, one that will fear and serve God. And after fighting England for their freedom, a new nation was born. They wrote the Declaration of Independence and set up all their laws, taken straight from the Bible and the 10 Commandments. And they had imprinted on their money, in God we trust. And in their great schools, the children prayed. In return, God blessed them with more than any nation before, ever on the face of the earth. And for almost 200 years they prospered, and no foreign nation ever set foot on their soil in war. And they sent missionaries to foreign lands to tell other nations about God and the Savior, Jesus Christ. And they shared their food and their money with other countries in need. And they prayed in their courts, and God blessed. Then slowly, as the wicked nations before it, the people turned to their own lust, own understandings, and the nation forgot God. In the schools, the children stopped praying. They came up with new ideas of such things as, if it feels good, do it. They turned to the sorcerers, astrologers, seances, and fortune tellers, and even to the actual worship of Satan. Following their fleshly desires, drinking, experimenting with drugs, filling their magazines with nudity, their books with filthy words, their TVs with immorality, their children's minds were filled with evil. And they held orgies and drank and danced in the streets. And then God stepped in. And the new promised land, the United States of America, began to fall. Their leaders became corrupt. They placed heavy taxes on the people. The food began to dwindle. The energies began to dry up. And once again, hunger, trouble, and sorrow fell on the nation that turned from God, the nation that forgot from whence all of its blessings came, the nation that printed on its money, "In God we trust," the nation that fell from God, the United States